Today I'm going to be making a cherry almond chocolate quick bread. The creator of this recipe, or at least the person I got it from, her name is Rachel Howden, and all these sweet breads, these quick sweet breads, came from a blog she did. I've just been working my way through them and they're all really delicious. I haven't made the cherry almond chocolate one yet, but it looks very simple and I'm sure it will turn out delicious. Now I'm doubling the recipe. So I'm going to get 2 loaves out of it. Normally you would just get one 9x5. So if you want a delicious and quick cherry chocolate almond sweet bread, make it with me. Keep in mind that I'm doubling the recipe. So everything I'm adding, you would only do half of it normally. So you want to get out your eggs to warm to room temperature, and you want to pour your buttermilk. Or if you don't have buttermilk, you can mix regular milk with a tablespoon of white vinegar. So 1 cup regular milk, 1 tablespoon white vinegar, whisk them together, let it sit for 5 minutes, and it becomes kind of a buttermilk of its own. After you get out your eggs and milk to warm, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. In a large bowl, you're going to need 4 cups of flour. 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups, 4 cups. And you need 1.5 cups of sugar. So there's 1 cup of sugar. There's half a cup. You need 2 tablespoons of baking powder. Keep in mind too, I'm making 2 loaves. So that's 2 tablespoons baking powder. We also need 1.5 teaspoons of salt. So there's 1 teaspoon of salt. And there's half a teaspoon. Whisk these together, whisk your dry ingredients together until well blended. So until you can't see them separate anymore. At this point, I'd say we're done with the whisk. I'm going to switch over to an icing spatula, just because later on we're going to fold some ingredients in, and you need an icing spatula to lightly fold. But now we need 2 cups of semi-sweet chocolate chips. So there's 1 cup. There's 2 cups. We also need 2 cups of dried cherries. And dried cherries usually come in like pouches, or if you have like an organic store or more of a top-end grocery with like health food sections, you can kind of find them sometimes and serve yourself scoops. Otherwise, you're going to have to buy them in pouches. So there's 1 cup of dried cherries, and there's 2 cups of dried cherries. So lightly fold those into your powder. Use an icing spatula to just kind of turn them all around, nice and even. Now in a medium bowl, so not as big as our dry ingredients bowl, we need to mix together our wet ingredients. So mix in your buttermilk, or in my case, regular milk with white vinegar. I made my own buttermilk. It's an easy substitute. So that's 2 cups of buttermilk. We need 4 eggs. I'm going to add them one at a time, just to make sure no shells get involved. 1 egg. 2 eggs. 3 eggs. And 4 eggs. And we need 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. 1. And 2. 1 teaspoon of pure almond extract. Now we need to whisk all these ingredients together until blended. So we're whisking together our buttermilk, our eggs, our vanilla extract, and our almond extract. And I noticed, usually with cherries, you do almond extract. Cherries and almonds go well together. Okay, I would say those are pretty well blended. Once all your wet ingredients are well blended, pour them on top of your dry ingredients. And also pour in 1 cup of melted butter. Or if you're just making 1 loaf, half a cup of melted butter. And this is unsalted butter. Mine needed to melt a little bit more, but that's okay. Now we need to mix these together. So just lightly fold all these together, just until combined. Then we're going to dump them into our loaf pans. So it's going to seem really liquidy at first, but you'll notice it all coming together, especially as you start folding it. Okay, I'd say that's pretty well combined now. We don't want to overmix it. Keep it gentle. Now let's grease our 9x5 pans and get this into them. So we have our 2 9x5s. And I'm lightly greasing them. I'm using spray. You can use Crisco and flour or whatever you would like to use. Now just lightly put your prepared batter into each one. If you're just making one, all of the batter goes into it. If you're making multiples, make sure you kind of spread it out evenly. There we go. And I always like to shake them out. Kind of hit them out as well. Now we need to gently sprinkle a half cup of sliced almonds onto the top of each loaf. So kind of. And you can do a little more or a little less depending on how much you like almonds. Hopefully you like almonds a lot if you're making a cherry almond chocolate bread. And it said to lightly press them into the top of your batter. Just to make sure they kind of stick and get absorbed during the baking. We need to get our 2 loaves, or your 1 loaf, or 5, depending on how many you made, into our oven preheated at 350 degrees for 50 to 55 minutes, or until a toothpick comes out clean. So insert a toothpick, and if it comes out clean, you're good. Unlike some other quick sweet breads I've made before, these they recommend turning halfway through. So maybe at 25 minutes, just go in there and turn it 180 degrees. My guess is this helps the almonds on top cook evenly. So open up your oven, get them on the center rack, 350 degrees, 25 minutes we'll turn them, 25 minutes after that we'll get them out and let them cool. Okay, it's been 25 minutes, so now let's just rotate our bread. Do it quick so you don't lose too much heat in your oven. You can see it beginning to rise up too. It's looking good. There we go. Okay, about 25 more minutes and the bread will be done. If it smells like it's done sooner, try the toothpick test. Toothpick goes in, comes out clean, it's good to go. You can tell a lot by the color and the smell as well. Okay, it's been 50 minutes. They're starting to smell done. maybe even a little crispy, and they're pretty brown. I checked on them a second ago. If you pull them out, yeah, you'll see a nice brown color, which is great. And there might be a little liquidy in the center still, but I don't want to cook that much longer for fear of burning them. So I'm going to get each one out, and I'm going to set them on a cooling rack. And make sure you turn off your oven. And what's going to happen too while they're on the cooling rack is they're going to continue cooking not as intensely as they did in the oven. So if your center part maybe doesn't look as done as your outside, that's pretty normal. It will solidify a lot more sitting out. So I'd say leave them on a rack for about 30 minutes, then we can dump the loaves out, and then let those cool to room temperature. After about 10 or 15 minutes of cooling in the pans, it's a good idea to dump your loaves out of the pans and let them sit on a wire rack. Be careful because some of your almonds on top will scatter everywhere. So I would recommend letting them cool to room temperature before cutting them. But once they cool, cut them into slices, and then let's try one. So now, the best part of any recipe, trying some. You really smell the chocolate a lot because of all the chocolate chips in it. Trying to get a piece that has some of the inside, some of the crust, and some of the almonds on top. Oh yeah, that's good. Earlier I was just eating some of the almonds off the top. Seemed kind of bland. All together, really, it mixes really well because you got the sweetness of the chocolate, the sweet tart of the cherries, and then the almonds on top are kind of a nice smooth flavor to even it all out. Very good hearty bread, very easy to make. So if you want a delicious almond chocolate cherry bread, look no further.